And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the African American Athlete. I'm here with my friend and frat brother, Michael Roberson. Hope everybody's had a great weekend. We got a Sunday night pregame edition of the African American Athlete as we get ready for game two of the NBA Finals. And we also got a couple other surprises to discuss throughout the show tonight. But I want to welcome my friend and frat brother Mike Robinson in. How you doing, good brother?
I'm doing fine, yo. I'm doing fine. Some parts of me feeling like, okay, I should have probably been at this finals, but that's a whole different story where you got to deal with credentials. So I don't want to make everybody feel all the melancholy I'm going through. but no, seriously. It's interesting to see. It will be interesting to see how Boston responds because we got a couple of factors going here. Dallas has had the propensity to lose game one, except for when they just played this last series. But other than that, they lose game one and come back strong game two. So will we have that happen? And then we can go back to when Boston played the Warriors. They won game one, then lost, and then won again. But then the Warriors just won three straight and took them out and took all their momentum. So I think Boston has to worry about not falling into that trap again. And do they come out strong, make a statement, go up 2-0, and they said not only are we gonna go up 2-0, but we're gonna come down to the Lone Star State and take care of business. So a lot is riding on this, and there's a lot of people that say, "Hey man, what's going on with Kyrie? You look great against." I guess it takes somebody talking trash for you to get going because remember, he was kind of playing a low-key role in these previous series. But then when Edwards made that comment about, I got Kyrie, then he came out saying, hey, look here, young fella. You can't do nothing with me, okay? So does he need that kind of motivation again? Well, Jason Kidd's motivation worked where he says, hey, man, I know everybody thinks Jason Tatum's the star of this team, but I think Jaylen Brown is, so is he trying to start some stuff? Is he trying to use psychological warfare? Is he trying to do like the previous coaches did? Phil Jackson, he would always throw out comments in the media to get the refs to say, hey, you know what, Michael's getting fouled here, or blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot of things. Game two is going to be a very pivotal game. And will Boston get it done, or will Dallas rebound like they've done in previous series?
But Mike, and rightly so, and you've been right about this the last few years, you always kind of worry about Boston. You don't trust them, do you?
No, I don't.
And you still don't trust them.
I mean, because they go through periods where Jason just seems like he's just floating, not even caring. It's almost like, and then song is definitely too old for him, but it's like float on. When we talk about all the Zodiac songs back in the 70s, he wouldn't know anything about that. Maybe his mother, but so and that's what happens. Where Jaylen seemed like he's on it. From point A to point B, he's on it. The only thing that Jaylen does wrong is he turns the ball over too much. He's too sloppy with his handles. And my thing is, after that finals where Jason had 100 turnovers, but I think Jaylen might have had 98, 99. They both turned the ball over too much. And with Jaylen, as soon as he put the ball in his left hand, it's like, oh, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. So that's the only worry I have with him is that he's sloppy with the ball. But then Jason goes through those lulls. And if you go through a lull at the wrong time, your team can get blown out. So he needs to be on it all four quarters.
Now, just to be fair to them, Mike, it was 100 turnovers throughout the course of that playoff.
Yeah, but still, that's still too many.
Oh, way too much. I mean, it was an utterly ridiculous amount. Right. But we're gonna get into some more NBA, and I want to talk about news coming out of women's basketball today. But man, I want to bring on a great friend of our show, and we've been saying this for the longest. one of America's great sports writers, our great friend Tony McLean of MLBBro.com, historian and staff writer. Tony, first of all, congratulations on your new assignment. And really, my great friend Rob Parker from the
Right.
Motor City, he,
Right.
he could not put together a staff writing about baseball and not include you, brother.
Well, first of all, thanks. And, I don't know if you guys know, me and Rob go back. We went to college together. We went to college
Oh my
together.
goodness.
Yeah, we went to
I
Southern
want to get
Connecticut.
some story. I got to call you off the air, man.
Yeah, we went to Southern Connecticut State University together. And the one story I always relate to everybody, we interned at an ABC affiliate years ago. And now both of us are Nick fans. I think we're the last two Nick fans left in the this side of Schenectady, but that's a whole other story. But we were interning the day of the inaugural NBA lottery. If you remember now, if you remember the enigma, it was the quote unquote Patrick Ewing lottery.
Right.
So yeah, the two of us are literally now we're logging games and everything, but um, we're sitting there. We're watching the lottery, sweating bullets. The fifth pick goes to,
Right,
the fourth pick goes to,
right.
and then when you got to the second pick, I was like, "Oh God, please say the Indiana Pacers." And the second pick went to the Indiana Pacers, and we both screamed. We both screamed. But yeah, me and Rob go back real quick. I've actually been writing for them. Started in the last year, right after the World Series. I did a little thing on the great black pinch hitters from back in the day. Your buddy Gates Brown, uh, Jerry Hairston Senior, and so many other folks, Lenny Harris. But subsequently, I've done a lot of things, historically wise. Did something on J.R. Richard. Actually, did something on the Hairston family as well. But it's been great. I really appreciate the time that I've been there. Looking forward to doing more stuff.
All right.
Absolutely,
Well,
brother.
Tony, what also, the MLB bro, I love the whole title, but what about this radio station that, he's getting started in Detroit too, with his hip hop and sports? Are you going to be a
Yeah.
part of that too?
Uh, I'm hoping maybe possibly down the road. But the biggest thing is they actually started this past week
Yeah,
on this. I believe it was on the third, and it's basically the first of its kind. Now, sports talk radio, of course, all sports stations, they've been around for a while now, but there's never been a black owned all black sports radio station. And Lord knows we could use, we could have used it years ago, but
Oh,
the most
absolutely.
important the most important thing is that Rob and so many, a lot of folks from MLBBro.com and others are a big part of this. And if you're familiar with the site at all, we incorporate hip hop and so many other things from from us, so to speak. And this was just a natural this was just a natural progression. And Rob spent so much time down there in the Motor City. It was just inevitable to happen. And I'm hoping that this is just the start of more, where we see them in more cities, whether they be in Detroit, New York, Chi-Town, what have you. So, yeah, I'm proud of, like I said, I'm proud to be a part of MLB Grove. And if they, if things work out, hopefully, do a little something with sports with this sports station as well, because again, long time.
yeah. I mean, this is why Mike and I do this show, man, and why you've done the work you've done in the VASN newsroom over the years. I mean, just to have this outlet, in addition to the mainstream media outlets. You mentioned Detroit Sports Talk Radio. Bro, we are in Detroit, Motown. The regular airways got one brother
Yeah.
80% black.
Yeah.
on the show.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. It speaks to the sports talk radio as a whole, because I know myself, I listen to you guys. I listen to our colleagues at BASN. I've been listening to the new station as well. That's pretty much it, because
Right.
put it this way, I would have thrown away a whole bunch of radios if I kept listening to a lot of these other stations. Now, full disclosure, um, when WFAN in New York began, I'm not gonna lie, I was a religious listener, but in looking back at the history of WFAN, and it's ironic that we're doing this a weekend after his numbers retired. If it wasn't for Daryl Strawberry, WFAN might have never existed, because I swear, 24/7, 365 on that station. It was Strawberry, and then later on it was A-Rod. They just always had to have somebody to beat up on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Strawberry was the number one guy for the longest time, and then eventually he got replaced. Then it was Patrick Ewing, and then eventually it became A-Rod, and it just and mind you, this was the flagship station for my team, the Mets. So it was tough. It was really tough. But now, unless they're taping the show in my room, I can't watch it. I don't listen to it at all. I can't.
Yeah.
Well, you know
Go
what,
ahead, Mike.
Ricky. Going back to Rob, I believe that station, the sports station they had there was DFN or something like that back in the
I believe
day.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, when you look at it, you can say the early '90s. The early '90s was when.
That's what it was, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying, early '90s is when it was like a moment where sports talk was like a big thing. So for me, I started off in Erie, Pennsylvania, but it was a talk radio station. It was conservative, where we had.
That was on Drew Sharp, right? Wasn't Drew Sharp there?
No, I wasn't. No, Drew Sharp. Drew Sharp might have been over in Philly or somewhere. No, Drew Sharp was in Detroit.
No, Drew's in Detroit.
So what happened is that I was in Erie, and then they were starting to pop up. Like Chicago had one pop up, and then Detroit. So I sent resumes all over because I'm from the Midwest. And I would love to go back home. And I remember DFN gave me this runaround about, well, we're looking for people that are local. And I started looking at their roster. I said, first of all, I'm not seeing the radio station being commensurate with Detroit's population. And secondly, I'm seeing guys of other persuasion from Seattle, Texas. I'm like, I'm a state away. How are you going to sit there and say I'm not local? So I went through that, and I remember, and here's the funny thing about it. In Chicago, they took our call letters. Our call letters was WMVP in Milwaukee, right?
Wow.
Our fat brother, Ricky, and of course, Packers legend, Willie Davis. Willie Davis owned the station. So Chicago wanted to have our call letters, and we sold them to them, and because they had the sports station, and then we became WMCS, which stood for Milwaukee's Community Station. So that's when I started to see, okay, Chicago's starting to do it, Detroit. And so I did that. So then when I did come back to Milwaukee, I'm at a black music station. So I still had to deal with not getting the recognition or how it was. And then you see the Mad Dog had that commentary where he says, hey, I know people saying that we don't have enough black people in my station, but, show me the resumes that people are sending. I'm like, come on, guys, stop with all that.
Yeah. There's no, and
people are coming all the time. And then, of course, we get our stuff out here that David Steele used to always talk about when he was out here. So,
it's what's really sad is that those excuses are still being used today. Right. So what's going to happen is, now that Rob has started something, Now they're going to try to say, well, why should it be all black? I
Yeah.
mean, you can't
Yep.
see. It's always funny to me that the folks who are catching the most hell are the ones that have to be the most diverse.
Right.
It's always seems to be incumbent on the oppressed to unoppress themselves.
Right.
So it's it's in any field, whether it's music, communications, politics, business, or what have you. The next person that tells me to pull myself off of my bootstraps are gonna catch some bootstraps in their butt afterwards. But that's another. But again, we could do an hour just on that.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with
Well, Tony, Mike, how about this? You guys remember the show on Black Sports Writers on BET?
Yeah.
you. Yes,
Who took
yes,
that? Just stole the whole format. Was ESPN?
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Was
yeah.
it?
It's
And you didn't see us on there for a long time. Maybe after a while, our late friend Brian Burwell might have been on there
mhm.
every now and then. Just
Like John Saunders, maybe on a
yeah,
certain
yeah.
certain
John
times
was
as
ended
well.
up being the host, but it was essentially hijacked from uh, BET. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's always funny to me that there are so many entities that they will try to make it out like this is something innovative, and then when you come to find out that it was actually started by folks that look like us, you
yeah.
know,
But
and it's and again, not that I don't want to go too long, but there's a friend of mine in the industry who's an HBCU guru by the name of Fred Whitted, Professor Fred Whitted. He wrote a book called the the Black College Encyclopedia, and it incorporates all HBCU information, whether it be football, Olympic sports, baseball, basketball, what have you. Women's you get a separate one on women's sports as well, but his thing has always been, and it's a mantra I think we all need to live. We need to tell our own stories, and
yeah,
especially now with sites like MLB Pro, with
yeah,
what we've tried to establish over the years with BASN Newsroom, and now with this all sports radio station. It's a continuum, and especially now when you realize where the industry has come from, where it has gone, and where it is now, it's much needed.
yeah. Hey, I one of the things Tony, I've been thinking about you ever since I heard the news about Major League Baseball bringing in stats from the Negro leagues, and it
Mhm.
kills me to hear people say, "Well, these stats are bogus. They didn't play in the major leagues. The major leagues didn't play against them. They only see it one way.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see.
Why
Once
is this
again,
so?
mhm,
Why
once
is this so
again,
important?"
you know, this is like I think this is like the second show that I've been on to talk about this, and I've gone back and forth with this so much. Now, full disclosure, when I was a kid growing up learning about baseball, I bought into the lies about the Negro leagues being, not as good as major leagues. They don't have all the statistics together. There isn't any information out there, and what have you. As I got older, and I really just explored stuff, I saw that there's so much information out there. And also, I've been blessed enough to have interviewed about a little over a dozen former Negro leaguers as well. And I consider it a gift from God that I was able to be able to do that. But I say all that. A very, very good friend of mine who is one of the best authors for Negro League baseball, Larry Lester. He's written several books over the years in regards to Negro League history, and he was on the board for when they voted in the Negro Leaguers in the Major League in Baseball Hall of Fame a few years back, and I believe he was also a part of of this undertaking to make the transition from the Negro League Stats to the Major League Stats. Now, I say all that to basically say we don't. Major League Baseball does not need to validate the legitimacy of the Negro Leagues. Never had, never wanted to. They've had several years to do this. Um, Ted Williams, when he gave his Hall of Fame speech, I want to say like 1966, 67 or so, he said, you know, we need to recognize these great Negro leaguers for
Oh,
what
I
they've
did
done.
not know that.
Now, mind you, this was long before Satchel Paige, who wound up being the first Negro leaguer inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame. So the thing of the incorporation, the opportunity to incorporate Negro League stats has been there for over 100 years. My question has always been, and it still will be, why now? Now, the thing is, put it this way, if you're truly really trying to get gain a black audience, I get that. My thing is, if a kid in Detroit or in Sacktown or in LA sees these stats and then says, I want to find out more about Turkey Stearns. I want to find out more about Satchel Paige. I want to find out more about Cool Papa Bell and so many others. Then it works. If there's a Hispanic kid that wants to know more about Louis Tiant Sr., yes, that's Louis' dad that pitched in the in the Negro Leagues. If he wants to know about Martin Diego, if he wants to know about Mauricio Martinez, one of the best shortstops in Negro League history, and they're inspired by what Major League Baseball did when they want to take it to another level and find out even more about the Negro Leagues, then it works. But the cynic in me says that Major League Baseball, like they do so many other times, is doing this for ulterior motives and to line their pockets because, again, it's been there for years. It's been, the Negro League started in February of 1920. We're over, the Negro Leagues has celebrated 100 years anniversary and everything. And like I said, I'm glad that that it's out there, but I can't help but think that there's not a I don't get the feeling that this is genuine on Major League Baseball's part. And I hate to say that like that because I don't want to denigrate what these guys have done over the years because as far as I'm concerned, and I think I've said this on your show and I said this on so many other shows, I don't recognize Major League Baseball until April 15th, 1947 for obvious reasons.
Right.
To me, and when they talk about how they need to put an asterisk on the steroid era, they need to put an asterisk on whatever, my thing has always been, you drop that asterisk on April 15th, 1947, and then come talk to me.
Well said,
my question was,
go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I said about, if they're going to incorporate the Negro League stats, I said, what about the players that played in the 1800s before this gentleman's agreement? Do we count that? What was it Moses Fleetwood Walker?
Moses Fleetwood Walker. Mm-hmm.
So we had, then we had jockeys in the 1800s. So a lot of stuff happened in the late 1800s before this whole 1900 Renaissance, where not the Harlem Renaissance, of course, but the Renaissance where, hey, you know what? We're in the 1900s, and this American white man does not like the feeling of a black man making more money than him. So we're going to make a gentleman's agreement. We're not going to ban these people. We're going to make a gentleman's agreement to make this average white guy feel better, that we will not have him have to look at a Jack Johnson that's flying around making all this money and taking our white women, or these baseball players, making more money than me, could sit there and float around their nice big Cadillac. So, and even in Harlem Nights, even though that was a funny movie, they talked about that with the one character, the Italian character, who says, you know what, he didn't like the way that Richard Pryor's character, Sugar Ray, had all this fancy stuff, the cars and all that. And here I am, only have this. And he basically had the white privilege of saying that it shouldn't be that way. So that's how it was for baseball until Rickey. Before he got, I'm messing his name up, but before he got Jackie in the major leagues, that's what it was. It was like, hey, we're not banning these guys. It's just that we just can't really get it together where there's not time for us to integrate these black players. So they have their league, we have ours, and of course ours is more legitimate. But it's just the way it is. We're not banning them. Guys, we're not doing this on purpose. It's just the way it is. And until we get our fans to really be able to accept that, we just can't bring in black players. It just won't work. So, that's what I'm saying about how the turn of the century is where everything seemed to be, hey, we're not in slavery. And maybe this Jim Crow stuff also permeates in the sports world.
Put a cap on this for us.
And see, my thing is, my thing is, tell the entire story. Tell the story of Bill Veeck trying to buy the Philadelphia Phillies back in the early 1940s. Right. And he's basically said that he was going to incorporate the Philadelphia Stars, the team who I believe won either the Negro League American League pennant or the Negro League National League pennant that year. He was going to incorporate players from that roster on the Philadelphia Phillies. Needless to say, at some point he got blocked and someone else bought the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, think about that. Think of how history might have changed. You think the Phillies might not have waited until 1980 to win their first World Series if they had been allowed to incorporate? And remember, the Phillies were one of the last National League teams to integrate. We all know how lovely they treated Dick Allen. Yeah. We all know that Jackie caught more hell in Philly than he did in Cincinnati and some of the other quote unquote liberal places. My thing is it's too easy for them to just incorporate the stats without telling the entire story. My thing is, tell the entire story. Tell the entire story, because there's stories behind Josh Gibson's lifetime batting average. There's stories behind how the Negro Leagues incorporated so many things before Major League Baseball. Negro League Baseball was playing night baseball in 1920, almost 15 years before Major League Baseball played their first night game. They started basically barnstorming, which is basically why you have the Mets and the Phillies over in England, and the Dodgers and the Padres over in Korea, starting the Major League season. So many things have been started by the black athlete. And see, my thing has always been, and this is sort of the credo that we use in regard to BASN Newsroom, the most innovative and most imitated being in all of sports, whether it be high school sports, college sports, professional sports, is the black athlete. Whatever sport the black athlete incorporates in, they change it. Baseball would not be baseball without Jackie Robinson and Hank Aaron and Willie Mays. Basketball would not be basketball without Chuck Cooper and Wilt Chamberlain and Elgin Baylor and so many others. So on and so forth. Hockey wouldn't be the same without Willie O'Ree and Jerome McGinley and Grant Bjork. Golf wouldn't be the same without Bill Spiller and Charlie Stifford and that Eldrick Woods kid out from California. Yeah. Tennis wouldn't be the same without the Williams sisters. And remember, there were even a pair of sisters back in the day that even predated the Williams sisters. But see, my thing is, just to steal a phrase from the late great Paul Harvey, tell the other side of the story.
Tony, we love getting you on, man. Hey, we got our abbreviated show tonight with the
Sure.
start of the NBA Finals. We only got a few more minutes here, Tony. I would love to
Mhm.
get your thoughts on some of this NBA stuff before we get off there. But I do have to tell this quick story about my favorite Negro League baseball player, Wesley Doc Dennis, who played, Michael knows the story, who played
Oh,
for
okay.
the Baltimore Elite Giants. Even though
Mm-hmm.
it was spelled elite, he always
Mm-hmm.
pronounced it Elite Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Historic, is that how everybody pronounced that, Tony?
I believe so, yeah. Oh yeah, I
Elite
believe yeah. Eli, yeah,
you,
yeah. And
you
and
talk
see
about
again, that's good stuff.
innovative
Mhm.
and style. There you go, right there.
Exactly,
The
exactly. That
Eli,
and see.
he was a first baseman for him, Tony, and his arms looked like Popeye. I tell the story all the time in my hometown of Nashville. After he retired, he became a golfer. He started playing golf, became a great golfer, won all the Negro tournaments that came through there. Only guy that could take him out was Teddy Rhodes, because Teddy was the tiger of that
Oh.
day. Everybody came under Teddy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, as he got older, I asked Doc. I said, Doc, man, how you get the ball out of a bunker? He thought about it. He said, I don't know. I ain't never been in a bunker. He never hit. What's the bunker when you always hitting it on the green, man? I'm like, come on. But
Yeah.
anyway, I know
Right.
Mike gets
Right.
tired of hearing
Right.
that story, but
No,
that's my
that's fine.
favorite story
Well,
because it
for me,
speaks to the athleticism. These guys are just tremendous athletes. You know, Mike, Josh, I mean, Satchel Paige getting people out at 59 years old in the majors. What would he have done at 29? Come on, man.
yeah.
Hey, but we got to get to this NBA Finals.
Well,
Tell me,
before
but go
you
ahead,
go
Mike.
there, Ricky, let me get my little Negro League thing here. Of course, we had Bob
Mhm.
Kendrick on the show. If you guys know, Bob
Oh.
Kendrick is the president of
Well,
the Negro
we
League
probably
Film.
need to give him a call too, Mike.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get back a hold of him. But for me, the first one I met was Dennis Biddle, who played, I believe, maybe in the 50s. But then, of course, while in Pennsylvania, the great Sam Jethro. So Sam Jethro,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So Sam Jethro was my auntie knew him more than I did because they
Okay.
both were bar owners in Erie, Pennsylvania. And my auntie had the most famous bar in the city, and in some points infamous. But Sam Jethro had a bar too. Yeah, it's a long story.
That's
So,
another show,
Yeah.
bro.
so I used to hear all the stories about him. But I didn't really get a chance to talk with him until '94. The Brewers were putting up a Negro League wall at County Stadium, and that's when I met Jackie Robinson's daughter.
Oh, okay.
So I met Sharon that day, and then I got a chance to interview Sam Jethro and a few other Negro Leaguers. So that was a big moment for me. And then I ended up writing an article on the African American athlete about Sam Jethro, and then a column. And then it was just that whole thing of we got a hold of Bob, and then all of a sudden now this is happening. So this may be that moment where we can really get the understanding of what true baseball was. And I said the same thing about, okay, are we going to do the same thing for college football where a Walter Payton, Earl Williams, and a few others would actually have a legitimate chance for a Heisman Trophy?
Mike, that is so crazy. You mentioned Walter because it's so crazy. I got this stat. I looked it up as we were talking earlier. The 74 Heisman Trophy voting: Archie Griffin, Anthony Davis, Joe Washington, Tom Clemens. Tell me when you see when I pronounce a better player than Walter Payton. Tom Clemens, David Hum, Dennis Franklin, Ross Schoch, Gary Shield, Randy White. Randy White was a hell of a player. Steve Barkowski. That's the Heisman Trophy vote from 74. That is crazy. We were on that same wavelength there.
Right.
Can I just want to incorporate something from that. The 1975 Jackson State team had 3 future Hall of Famers on their roster. Of course, that Fairleigh Midland running back by the name of Walter Payton. You also had Dr. Death, Robert Brazil. And then you also had on the other side of the line, Jackie Slater. Now, you could make an argument for a 4th one being Leon Gray, who had a really great pro career as well. But think about it. How many quote unquote white Division I schools had multiple Heisman Trophy winners? I mean, multiple Hall of Famers on the roster for 1 year. And you got to remember that was like a middle of the well. I don't remember if they won the SWAC that year or not. I want to say that I would think they would, but think about it. You've got some Division I white schools that don't have 3 Hall of Famers on their roster. If you really step back and research it, and here was Jackson State with arguably 4 future Hall of Famers on that roster.
And check this out. That same year, in '74, the number 1 pick overall is from Nashville, Tennessee.
Tall
Jones.
Jones.
Not even in the Hall of Fame.
There you go.
Yeah, that one. Well, I was and again, I don't want to beat my own horn, but I have to say something. A bunch of us a few years ago, we put together a book called it was God, this is terrible. I can't think of the name of it. But long story short, we were making the argument for 15 HBCU players who should be in the Hall of Fame. Now, my article was on Kenny Riley. Now, Kenny Riley was a freaking Rhodes Scholar. He was also a quarterback for FAMU. And of course, when he got into the NFL, they made him play defensive back. So all he did was become basically, a Hall of Fame defensive back. Matter of fact, when he played his last game in the NFL, only Paul Krause, who still holds the record for most interceptions all time, only Paul Krause had more interceptions than him. He finished his career with 65.
And Paul Krause should get an asterisk playing against them bad quarterbacks from Chicago and Detroit all them years.
Yeah.
That's about 20 of them right there.
Yeah.
Tony, like I said, bro, it's always great having you on here. But let's talk a little NBA right quick. But before we do that, I just want to touch on the news. Get your thoughts on this whole matter with Caitlin Clark, who today it was learned she won't be making the women's Olympic team. To her credit, I believe she said, "Hey, this just fires me up for 4 years from now."
Which it'll be in America, so that's the way you can look at it. It'll be in the United States then.
Yeah, so I do like her response for today, and I think she kind of understands these aren't 18, 19-year-old players he's playing against now. So I think that's in that respect, she knows what she got to do to get better. Your whole thoughts on that, then we'll get to the thoughts on Game 2 and the finals.
It's like fitting a square peg in a round hole. She was a system. I mean, let's be honest. She was a system player at Iowa. System player. Now she's going into a situation at Indy where she's probably got more talented players around her, but she has to make the transition. She's not going to be able to walk into this league and dominate. What's sad is we've been hearing most of the commentary that you've been hearing in regards to the WNBA has been from people who just started following the WNBA 2 hours ago. And and what makes it worse is that you've got a lot of folks who have covered the WNBA that are making asinine statements. Look, Diana Taurasi said it best, and they tried to shut her down. She's a good player, but she's going to have to make the transition. Yeah. And the bottom line is, there's going to be some nights where she gets 8. There's going to be some nights where she's going to get 30. but she's going to have to deal with the physical play. She's going to have to deal with playing some defense, which she still has yet to play in this league. And quite honestly, the best thing that happened to her was not going to the Olympics because, right, you can see she's tired. Her body is tired because she literally, I mean, from the finals to camp to now, she hasn't had a chance to rest. This is probably the most basketball she's played in her life
That's great
in
point.
this last 4 or 5 month stretch. And I think the worst thing that could have happened to her was to make the Olympic team and then go up against foreign players who are faster, have more of a pro style game. Let's put it this way. Right now, she is a decent pro. Is she going to be the quote unquote Kaylin that she was in college? Not now. Not now. And she has to make the transition. But when you're pushing a certain agenda that we've all seen happen way too many times before, this is what you get. When Tarazi basically said she has to make the transition from playing against, little girls, I shouldn't say little girls, but the
Yeah,
younger
yeah,
girls,
yeah.
to established pros. You know, I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I've always felt from day one, the WNBA is 10 times more physical than the NBA is. Will
Absolutely.
always be, always have been.
Absolutely.
So the physical, so for these folks who are like so taken aback by the physical play in the WNBA, it just lets me know that you haven't been watching the league and you're just showing up and see. And therein lies the paradox because come out and say it. A lot of people look. This is the Great White Hope all over again.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess Angel Reese or I guess Aja Wilson it's Jack Johnson, and Kaylin's doing a horrible job as being the Great White Hope because she's just not ready. Maybe a year from now, when she's had a chance to put some weight on and get incorporated into what the WNBA style play is, she'll be a decent player. But right now, she is, at the end of the day, she is a rookie. And
No, go
that's
ahead.
it. No,
Yeah.
no, no. I mean, she's a rookie. She's gonna have up and down nights. But when you're trying to idol worship someone, you expect you want to put them to be bigger than life, bigger than God. But he's not even an apostle right now. He's
Yeah,
got
and we're
she's not
lucky
an
that we're lucky to have Mike here, who has covered women's and NBA basketball extensively over the years. He's one of the guys who can actually speak because he's seen, he's been there, he knows these players, and uh, Mike, your thoughts on Caitlin not making the Olympics? I love what you said. That's a great point about her being tired and
Right.
all that, Tony. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, if you think about it, the best rookie year in WNBA history would be Candace Parker. Rookie of the year and MVP. Okay?
MVP.
So, right. Yeah, so and that's some Will Chamberlain type stuff. All right. So Brianna Stewart, you talk about being tired. Brianna Stewart won 4 straight championships. Came to the WNBA and they said, you know what? Not only are we going to anoint you as this great champion, but you're going to be on the Olympic team. And at the expense of the aforementioned Candace Parker. Remember, people were upset about that. So that's why I said that this is not unprecedented where you brought in a rookie and put them on the Olympic team. So this scenario right here, I would say, I think some of that might have been some backlash because think about it. You got Diana Taurasi. This is supposed to be her 6th time on the Olympic team. Now, at some point, you got to say, come on, we got to give some other people a chance. 6 times. So then you could say, well, that could have been Caitlin's spot. But I think because there's going to be a lot of backlash because of what's going on now, they might say, you know what, let's save her for when it's here in the United States. When it's in LA in 28, then we can have Candace as our queen right there. Because she'll have a few years under her belt, then maybe then. But, you know, people are now falling in love with the young lady I had out here at Stanford, Cameron Brink. A lot of people saying that she's having a better rookie year. You know, Angel's getting the double-doubles. But she, of course, has been assigned as the villain role. So we'll see how that goes with her. Will they start to fall back in love with her later on, or is she going to always be the anti-Caitlyn? So that's another thing, too, about putting on a young player to represent your country. You know, yeah, you want Caitlyn to represent your country, but some of these other rookies, I don't know, unless it's somebody like Cameron that's, you know, had the looks that they love. She's blonde and she's playing in LA, comes from a great college. So she might sneak under the radar and be the one that they want to be the representative. If there's a change, maybe Diana says, you know what, this is too many for me. I'm going to pull myself off. Who knows?
Well, I have a trading places bet with a colleague of mine, and he says that Caitlin's going to be rookie of the year, and I said I'm still going to say it's going to be Angel because her game translates better right now. Matter of fact, when the night of the draft, when I saw that Chicago drafted her and Cardoza, I was like, oh my. They make, I know everybody was basically putting the fever in, with her in Boston, and I get that. But Cardoza and Reese, and if you remember, if you've been following the WNBA, that was the one thing that Chicago was lacking was an inside presence, and now they got two.
Yeah.
I know they got off to a slow start, but I mean, look, hey, it's the aces to lose pretty much, but Chicago, if not this year, at some point, somebody's gonna have to answer to Chicago at some point.
Right, and Cardoso was hurt right away. That's another thing.
Exactly.
Too.
Exactly.
Aaliyah, that's the thing that people are forgetting all about because it's all about Caitlyn. How do you sit there and subdue the rookie of the year, the past rookie of the year, where she's just an afterthought now? Now people are jumping on her about how come she didn't come to Caitlyn's defense when she got pushed down. I'm like, why are we assuming that she's Rick Mahorn or somebody?
Yeah.
So we need to stop with that. We're going to automatically assume that. How dare you let this damsel in distress be attacked like that, and you guys don't help her out?
That's what she is.
Matt Barnes anyway. Matt Barnes is a grown man trying to jump on Derek Fisher, and the chick is still with him, Derek Fisher. How stupid do you look right now?
He's a damsel in distress. Yeah. Hey, quickly, guys, because I got to get out of here. Your thoughts on game 2 in the series, Mike, and Tony, I'll let you close it out.
All right. Well, like I was saying to you off the air, this is a big game for Boston, especially Jason Tatum, because as I said before, and as I've been saying to you throughout the years, he has disappearing acts that happen with him in the series, and he really did it in that series against the Warriors. I was really disappointed with him, especially when you drop that game 6 you did against the Bucks. When the Bucks had a chance to win that series in Milwaukee, and I think he got about 40 or 50 on Giannis and those guys. I said, so you need to have more consistent play like that. You didn't have a game at all like that against the Warriors, and you basically let Draymond, who was looking horrible in the beginning of the series, basically punk you guys out. And they totally took over that series, and along with Wiggins and Jordan Poole. Nobody wants to give him credit. Jordan Poole and Wiggins were the key factors in them beating Boston. So it's going to be key to see if Boston takes care of business and wins both games. Because let's face it, their home record has been mediocre at best in the playoffs. So that's the thing about it. Is I think the onus is on Boston to take care of business. And before. I give the floor to Anthony. We also got to acknowledge in the other major sport, hockey, We got Edmonton and
Yeah.
Florida. Florida got the win, but let's look at it. Since this is the African American athlete, 2 players on that Edmonton team. We know it's about Gretzky and Messier, but Grant Fuhrer always gets overlooked, and that was their first big black star. But now you got Evander Kane and Darnell Nurse. So if you're African American, you say, well, how should I be able to get into hockey? That's 2 players you can look out for Edmonton. So people out there that don't really care for hockey, but you're trying to watch it, those are the 2 players to keep an eye on for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tony, take us home, brother.
Dallas has a puncher's chance in this series, and if they're going to do anything, they got to do it tonight. But I agree with what Mike said. It's the Celtics series to lose here because all the pressure is on them. They've had the best record. They've dare I say it, they're basically becoming the 86ers where they owe their fans at least one at this point in time right now. So they don't get the one, and the NBA is the most unforgiving league. If you don't take advantage of that 3 to 5 year window to win, you become the Utah Jazz.
Yeah. Hey, I really feel bad for you, Knicks, Tony. They would just beat up. I mean, if they got their full force, they win that series. I would have loved to see the Knicks, healthy Knicks, Celtics final.
Put it this way, Rick. For the first time in a long time, there's light at the end of the tunnel because of the way the roster is built, and it's not Patrick Ewing holding a flashlight. So there's hope. I'm hoping that they add another legit scorer. If they have to give up Randall to get another legit scorer to take the pressure off of Brunson, so be it. I just my thing is, I've lived through Bernard King and nobody else. I've lived through Patrick Ewing and nobody else. I've lived through, Phil Name here and nobody else. And now this past year was, Brunson and nobody else. We need somebody else at some point before long.
Hold on, Tony. Hold on, man. He had some guys. He had our buddy Anthony Mason, Oakley. I'm just
saying I need another bona fide guy. I need another bona fide 20-point, 17-point guy. Look, DiVincenzo can run hot and cold. Josh Hart, God bless him, he's over underachieves a little bit. And with Randall's sort of hot and cold as well. He's a good player, but he's not a legit 20-25 every night. They need a legit 25, 13 rebound guy there every night. And the thing is, I'm so afraid that they're going to do what they've done historically, where they go out and get somebody who's past their prime and then mess up the whole cohesion. The thing is, right now, there's great cohesion because they play defense. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league, but you know how the league is. You got to score. You have to be able to score to win in this league, man.
Well, Ricky, let me please interject this because the 30th anniversary.
You got 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
This fiasco with New York. Now, from what I understand, Pat Riley, who sat there and watched John Starks build a house on the rim, had a chance to put in our frat brother Rolando Blackman.
But
he had no kind of beef with a Rolando Blackman, so he refused to put him in the game. Instead, he let the team burn down, and it was an opportunity to have double champions in Madison Square Garden, which Dallas almost had a chance to do this year in hockey and basketball. But his refusal to do that had to happen. And at the time, his record was 4-5. Then he got lucky and got that win in Miami. But during that time, he was being a jerk towards LeBron. That's why they lost their first one against Dallas.
Well, look, we're gonna have to.
Rick, one last thing.
Oh, come on.
If Doc, I know I'll be quick. If Doc Rivers doesn't tear up his knee, that series is a whole different thing. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Hey, Tony, you are the absolute best. Once again, congratulations on your new assignment as historian and staff writer at mlbro.com. Good luck to our friend Rob Parker and all the rest of the brothers at mlbro.com. Come back, Tony. We got more to talk about.
Right.
Oh, hey, just give me a heads up. I appreciate chatting with you and Mike, man. It's a pleasure. I consider it a gift.
And worldwide America, it was Branch Rickey that I was trying to say.
Yeah.
We got you.
Thanks
everybody for tuning in. For my friend and
Take care, guys.
Mike Roberson, Tony McLean, I'm Rick Hampton. Enjoy the game, everybody. Peace.
Take care.